Welcome in again, everybody, to the Coach's Corner on the Auburn Undercover Podcast. Ellis Johnson is going to be with us again this week. Coach, give us your thoughts on the game.
But I think in Auburn's case, there are probably a lot of things that they can say, we can do this better, we can do that better. And what helps, it's easier to coach them hard when you win a game, especially when you win against a decent opponent. And so they got to have a good, confident feeling in that locker room right now. And there were times off and on the last 2 years, it's high and low, off and on, up and down, emotionally I'm talking about. So, I can't imagine that right now that they don't have the confidence of the players and the attitude coming in the door to start meetings and practices every day. I mean, kids are kids. And I just think it'd be a whole lot of different approach and a whole lot different attitude.
How important is it to get a win like that early on in the season versus doing what Alabama did Saturday?
Well, I think for Auburn and Alabama, they're both relatively, new coaching staffs. And Auburn had not gotten over the hump. They had some good games and they have some disappointments. And most of them, they shot themselves in the foot and contributed to it. So coming in and playing against a decent team like that and winning and showing some dominance in some areas, I think it's huge. I think with the coaches too, but like I just said, I think with the players' mental approach now, they've always going to have confidence when they get in situations like that.
The Alabama game was, and we're in the state of Alabama. We always we're on an Auburn podcast. We got to talk about Alabama too.
Right.
How hot is it over there right now?
They've got to be frustrated because, you get beat by a team, and that Florida State, nobody knew who Florida State was. I'll be shocked if they're not in one of the 12 playoff teams. I'm not going to be surprised if Clemson doesn't finish third in the ACC. I mean, Miami and Florida State showed in those opening games, they may fizzle out, but they showed in those opening games that they're capable of beating anybody in the nation. Okay, each of them beat a top 10 team. Now, they might not be a top 10 team, but they were Saturday. And they both kicked their butts. I mean, they didn't destroy Notre Dame, but they beat Notre Dame. Okay? So, that's a big deal. But specifically for Alabama, they played a good football team. It's not the end of the world that you lost a game. And all the statistics of this is the first time they've ever been 0-1. It's the first time some of it matters. It's good for the media and all that, but most of that doesn't matter. They got a problem with intensity and fundamentals and consistency, and that's what I thought would be better this year. I thought last year, again, they were kind of hot and cold. They beat a Georgia team that probably was as good or better than they were, and they did it by explosive plays and amazing plays. That damn catch that Williams made into the game was just, how the hell did he do that? Mm-hmm. The quarterback was threatened to score from anywhere on the field if he dropped back the pass and didn't throw it. He might take off running from 60 yards away and end up in the end zone. But that wasn't DeBoer football. And you could tell they were just trying to find a way to figure it out. And then this year, I felt like they were going to be more in their system, in their culture, in their way of doing things. And if what we saw Saturday is it, they're in trouble. It just seemed like I don't know. It wasn't statistically at the end of the game, they were as good as Florida State. And the opening drive, 17-play drive.
Impressive.
But I forgot how many yards. And then the rest of the game, it's like they can't run 3 plays in a row without a malfunction, a penalty or a drop or something, Didn't see the running backs break a lot of tackles. Didn't see any fantastic throws on 50-50 balls, and throws and catches and stuff like that. So I don't know. It was a surprising thing to me, but I really feel like that Florida State came out and played with aggressiveness and motion and may have surprised them a little bit, because you're talking about a team won 2 games last year and the bookies think you're a 2-touchdown favorite. And I know the coaches weren't telling them that in the locker room, but don't think kids don't know stuff. And so they probably came in, got hit in the mouth, and like, hey, we weren't prepared for this.
Well, I guess the premise that I guess what I'm asking is, I think DeBoer's a great coach. I think he's a good guy. All those things. I don't think anybody questions his abilities as a coach. I guess in this state, between Bear Bryant and Nick Saban, Alabama had 7 coaches, 4 left on their own, 3 got fired.
Yep.
A guy that's from, I think, South Dakota and has coached at Indiana and Fresno and Washington, this is a different animal. And I'm just not sure, I know a couple of guys over there, and I told them before they came over there. So I'm not sure, that can work. Just from a standpoint.
Yeah, who knows? I think the difference in that and Harsin, who you always talk about for Auburn, is he's recruited good.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in good players, great players. I mean, that arena has not been something. He's handled that fine. I don't know. My gut feeling, I mean, this is about giving opinions and stuff. I think it's such a drastic change in the approach. Okay, if they've been winning with I don't know who'd give an example, but you know how meticulous and demanding Saban is on his staff, on his secretaries, on his team. Okay. And it's that constant grind. And we know people who work for him, you got tired of it and got the hell out.
Me included.
Yeah, I mean, it just sometimes you do. And some of it's not necessary. But the bottom line is that's the way it was. And then you take these 19-year-olds and all of a sudden, every 2 or 3 days, it's I don't know. It's sitting on the dock at the lake or something. It's just not the same intensity. The demands on the practice field. And so a kid that age has a natural tendency to kind of put it third gear. So I don't have to work that hard today. Hell, I'm good enough to get this done. And they're satisfied with what I'm doing. So I just think there's that much difference. And that's why I thought this year would be better. I think last year it was a culture shock for those kids. Changing the system, changing the calls, changing the schemes, and then the demand from the coaches and the head man is just a little bit different. We're going to do things the right way, but we're not going to do things 110 miles an hour every rep. And then, to me, it's going to be a huge adjustment. Now, I think they'd be stupid to do anything to force him out or make him feel like he wants to leave. I don't think they're going to fire him.
No,
everybody's got to pay players today. You can't fire coaches and give them millions of dollars. See you later. Enjoy your next 3 years down at the beach. You can't do it. I don't give a damn if you're Ohio State or Texas A&M and got oil money. You can't keep doing it because you got to pay these players millions of dollars. And it's going to start being a different arena, I think. But I don't know whether it's got to get better. I mean, it just does not look like an SEC football team with the discipline and the toughness and the grit and the grind. I was told some other day, Texas and Alabama and Clemson are starting to look alike. Sometimes they're just great athletes, good execution, fantastic play. And when they got to have it, there's not a lot of get hit in the mouth and, just take somebody and physically, dominate them like you got to do sometime.
Yeah, you were talking about culture, and Saban was talking about, Feinbaum was actually talking about yesterday, that people inside the building, people around the program talked about, this is going to be different. And Alabama's 5-5 in their last 10 games, and Saban talked about, well, hey, look, I've seen it, I've been there, I've seen the culture, and he's got his culture in place, and everything's going to be better. It didn't look better Saturday.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, and I understood it last year, but I didn't understand getting beat by Vanderbilt. But that's what they were so inconsistent. You beat Georgia, and 3 weeks later you lose to Vanderbilt. That's not a real disciplined, consistent, focused football team. Doesn't say anything about your skill or your talent. It says something about your consistency, which comes from practice habits and coming into building habits and all that kind of thing. I mean, even as a player, sometimes I didn't put any stock in it. As a young coach, I didn't put it in it. But the longer you're in the game, I mean, everything matters. You either building a certain model or you just, emphasizing the main things. And the other little things are still, and you can't do that with kids. You got to have a cut system, and you got to, if that ain't right, then do it over again. So I don't know. I mean, I've never been to their practices. I don't know but about one or two people who even work there, and I don't know any of them well. So I don't know what the hell's going on down there. If Nick says it's got a good culture and all this good stuff, I don't think he'd sit there and just lie about it. He'd probably just keep his mouth shut. But, I don't know. That's all you can do is, like Stallings used to say, don't tell me about activity. Tell me about accomplishments. Results are what count.
Fedora used to say, look, don't tell me about the labor. I just want to see the baby.
Yeah. But it's, they're tackling, wasn't as physical and thing. I saw some angles to the ball that weren't real good, either overrunning things, just separating off of blocks and stuff like that. You can't see it every play, but you just, after a while, you start looking at it to see what's going on up there. So I don't know. It just seems like there's still something missing that was being developed last year. And now it's year 2, and it should be in place.
Jump back to Auburn. What do they need to do this week against Ball State?
Ball State's not a real good football team. And so I think what they don't want to do is go out there and turn the ball over and get penalties and stop themselves and look like a football team that hadn't made any progress. They're going to win the game. They've got enough talent. They're going to score enough points, and they're going to win the game. But I don't want it to look really good, polished, toughness, discipline, execution, penalties, all the things that you evaluate after a game. I'd want to come in and feel really good about it. I'd want to feel like we played better than we did against Baylor, because that tells you that, the players are on track and, you're getting it done. Because again, I don't know when they come back out of the bench press games, but they got a 3-game stretch somewhere about a little bit before midseason. Who is it they got? I saw it the other day.
I'm going to pull it up here before I speak.
I got it right here, but
let's see. We got Ball State, South Alabama, Oklahoma, A&M, Georgia, Missouri, Arkansas, Kentucky, Vandy, Mercer, Alabama. So once you get past these next 2, it's at Oklahoma, at A&M, and Georgia. So it doesn't get easier.
Yep. And the one, A&M looks like they're better, but that one's on the road. And then the other 2 are at home, aren't they? Well, Oklahoma's on the road too.
Oklahoma's on the road. A&M's on the road. Georgia, Missouri are at home, and then at Arkansas.
We're going to find out a little bit more about Oklahoma this weekend. They played Michigan. If they bring Michigan in there and beat them, and clearly beat them, then I think he's got it turned around. But they didn't have a tough opponent the first game, and they looked like a better football team, but they didn't play a really, really elite opponent. So if they can do that to Michigan, then he's probably got it turned. If they can't, then he may still be trying to get that thing, get it going. So they could be. Everybody talks about who's got the toughest schedule in the conference, and they're talking about look at that. Last year it didn't turn out the way everybody thought. There were some teams that didn't play well in the SEC last year, and I like South Carolina, for example. They didn't play that hard of a schedule last year. They looked like a damn NFL schedule before the season, but there were 2 or 3 teams did not play that well, and they weren't tough opponents. They may even have an easier schedule this year. It just depends on how things go.
Texas didn't have a tough schedule last year, and
really
don't
this year, really. At least we don't think they do, but we'll see. But at the end of the year, you look who played Texas and Georgia and LSU last year. If you had to play those 3 guys, and the teams that didn't, there were a couple. I don't know, Texas. I don't know if they played any of the 3. Maybe played one of them. But anyhow, that can happen. But that's going to tell us a lot about Oklahoma, I think.
There's no question about that. Let's hit some games right quick before I know you have to run, but we got Ole Miss at Kentucky.
Yeah, Kentucky, I told you last week that Toledo would play them solid, and they did. Got beat in the third or fourth quarter. But I think Ole Miss will handle that. And that was the one they screwed up last year, wasn't it?
I believe so. I think so. Yeah, it was.
Kentucky upset them. I think at Oxford. But where they played?
They're playing at Kentucky. No, I'm sorry. They're playing at home this year. They're playing at home.
They must have beat them up at Kentucky last. Well, it says it's Kentucky. Ole Miss at Kentucky. So Kentucky came in there and beat them at home last year.
You're right. Yeah.
And they were beautiful. Kentucky was not a good football team. So I believe Ole Miss, they may run this thing up to about 30 points.
Well, Kiffin will if he can, for sure. I mean, and Ole Miss is a 10.5-point favorite. Kansas at Missouri about 6.5.
I think this is a pretty important game for Missouri. Kansas is a decent team, and I think that guy's a hell of a coach. If Missouri can put a double-digit win on them, then he will have transitioned with a new quarterback and got that thing going to a bowl game again.
We got this is an interesting game. South Florida at Florida. I think Florida wins. They're 17.5-point favorite, but South Florida looked pretty good last week. And if I'm the AD at Florida now, you played Long Island last week to open, and then the rest of your non-conference schedule is South Florida, Miami, and Florida State. I'm not sure about that scheduling, but what do you think about this?
It ain't good this year. I don't think it'd be a good game, but it might. I mean, they just destroyed Boise, wasn't it?
34-7.
I mean, it was just like a reversal of what everybody thought they were going to be watching. So unless Boise is just flat this year, I mean, South Florida's a dangerous football team. I saw some clips on it, just highlights. I mean, damn, they were hitting 30 and 40-yard runs and explosive touchdowns. And I mean, it looked like Boise hadn't played football, and that's a team that always wins 10 games.
They're always good.
So that may be, you're right. It may be a better football game. I hadn't even marked that one down, but that's one to keep an eye on. And every game they go out there, you just make sure you pray and Lagway doesn't get hurt, because it's been something every year.
If he can stay healthy, they got a really tough schedule, but I think Florida's got a chance to be pretty good.
Yeah, no question. Arizona
State at Mississippi State.
Yeah, that's a game that Mississippi State needs to find out where they are. How did Arizona State? Who they beat last week?
Let's see. They're ranked number 12 in the country. They beat Northern Arizona last week, 38-19.
I knew it was not a major opponent, so we don't know on them. But if Mississippi State can somehow pull one of those and turn that thing, they got to beat somebody like that to get their program back.
Michigan at Oklahoma, and OU's a 2.5-point favorite.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's way too early to know, but I think the quarterback thing is going to be an improvement, if not a total solution. It's certainly going to be an improvement. And I think Brent running the defense is only going to help. So, I mean, I feel like they'll beat Michigan, but they need to, because that's one that will tell them how they can get this thing back on track.
Well, and he's got a pretty good staff. I mean, he brought the quarterback in for that. They wanted to keep Jackson Arnold, but I mean, the issue last year was all the injuries on the offensive line, the receiver, and
he didn't have any help.
Had no help, and
defense also wasn't getting a lot of stops to give him the ball back. But it was just a lot of things around him. I totally agree.
Vandy at Virginia Tech.
I saw this, and I think they favored Virginia Tech.
By 1.5.
1 point. That surprised me a little bit. I think Virginia Tech's a middle-of-the-road ACC team. And I don't know how good Vandy is, but they got about the whole roster back. And the little quarterback's really good at the scheme they run. I wouldn't be surprised to see Vanderbilt beat them up there. South Carolina struggled with them for a half. Talking about Virginia Tech. But I don't – is that mine?
That's yours.
Oh, that's my alarm I set. But I had the whole phone cut off. I forgot the alarm still works. But, I don't think Virginia Tech's that good of a team. And I'm glad South Carolina was able to pull off that win. But I think Virginia Tech's middle-of-the-road ACC at best.
Before we let you go, we got a minute left. Final thoughts on Auburn for this week.
I mean, it's not a game that you should be worried about, or even. I just think if they play really, really well, I mean, the execution of it is really good. I think that's a huge sign that they've not only recruited it back to being competitive at the top, but now the players are, playing and practicing and preparing and all that, at a level. So they go out there and commit a bunch of errors and penalties and things and beat the other team by 30. I don't know that says they're any better, They really need to play a good football game and put it on top of that Baylor win.
And just get better and stay healthy.
True. I mean, injuries are always something, but, you can't worry about them. But I just think they've got to continue to play well, to get back to being in the top half of that league. You can't play hot and cold. You know what I'm saying? They got to continue to get better off of what I think was a really important and a really big win that first game.
And I think the other thing is getting the quarterback some confidence. He didn't throw it much, against Baylor. I mean, right. I think I'd take the lid off him and let him, let him build up some confidence and try to make him a little bit more comfortable in the passing game.
Yeah, I thought it probably was because he didn't have to throw it, but at the same time, that means you haven't proven you can throw it and throw it effectively.
Ellis, good to be with you again this week.